Yep, nice. Once I get my screws in, these will be nice and quiet. These are the dinette seats for the Sprinter van. They're going to face one another from opposite sides of the van, just ahead of the bulkhead. We had a few objectives in designing these things. First of all, they had to be modular. They had to be easily modified or edited. And they had to be freestanding, okay? As is every module in my builds. All the 80/20 modules are freestanding. This has got a little rattle to it because I don't have the proper screw in the hinge. I'm waiting for a Teflon thrust washer to come from 80/20, and then I'll complete my hinge, and then these will be quiet. But anyway, they had to be modular, freestanding, easily modified. In other words, we're talking about using our bed cushion sections as the seat cushion, so it serves double duty. That's 6 or 8 inches. If I have to go that thick with the seat cushion, that means I've got to cut these legs and shorten or lower these benches. Easily done with this system. And in fact, I've been designing my modules where the faces come off separate from the rest of the frame, so it makes it a little easier to work or edit, put in a new faceplate, whatever the case may be. It was another tangent that I went off on. This was an idea that Mr. Sprinter came up with. He had purchased these bed slats from IKEA, and originally they were going to be used for the entire bed area, as many builders do. We've got a little different system going in there, and for these bench seats, I was going to use webbing, some type of canvas or poly webbing like you'd see a beach chair. I was going to weave it in. I've done that many times. It's very effective. It's tunable, repairable. But then Mr. Sprinter said, hey, we've got these slats from IKEA. Let's use them. Brilliant idea. So I took the, obviously, you know, they've got a curve to them. I can't. So I cut the center of each of these, and I put them across the top, and they've got a concave shape this way, so they will cradle your butt as you sit in it. And in doing so, that pressure pulls these two sides in. And I've got my support struts on either side. So it makes a real big difference how you connect this top frame. In other words, would this one run into this one, or would this run into that one? You got to be aware of where your forces are going to be pulling and pushing. Was that another tangent? Comfortable. That was another objective. These benches have to be comfortable so you can sit here all night drinking wine, talking and laughing in slow motion with Barry White playing in the background. See the pencil lines? Weight's transferred right down. I got a little rubber tread to cushion that blow. Because I've got that little bracket on the wall back there acting as my fourth leg, I put in a 45-degree just to carry some of that load back down to this front leg. And we're good to go. The refrigerator. It's a 100-pound insulated box. Keeps your food fresh, cold, frozen. It's an integral part to the success of van life. It's to be cared for, respected, put on a pedestal, so to speak. Here's that nice new tabletop. It's so glossy. It's got a coat of epoxy. Nice. It's a 100-pound fridge, and it's going to be mounted up off the floor. It has to be supported every which way to survive the earthquake that is the inside of a van when you're driving. All these components have to be locked down safely. So this framing system that I use, the 80/20, it acts like an exoskeletal system around the refrigerator. Wraps it, cradles it every which way, and keeps it nice and true and plumb. I've got both of these refrigerator modules built to a point where the only thing left to do are some little details, fine details, which are specific to each of the different vans I'm working in. This one goes in the ProMaster. It has a larger fridge that goes in the opening. This one goes in the Sprinter. So now I'm going to move them inside, put a little bit of tweak on them, and see what's left to be done to secure them. Then I bring them back out, and I'll need help doing this, but I stand them up out here in the shop, and I fit the refrigerators into each of the module carcasses to make sure they fit and they sit properly, they're squared. Once that's accomplished, then I tighten down on all those 80/20 connections, and I lock them into the van. I've got components under this fridge as well. So when you build your module, you have to keep in mind that your van walls curve, right? So the closer you can get to the side wall is the most efficient place for the fridge. Easy, buddy. Easy. All right. Easy. All right. Let's get you in place. You can see what I'm talking about here with the curve of the van, the Sprinter van. Up here, I had to shortcut my rear vertical support. See, this one up front, I can carry, this is measured just so it fits underneath my ceiling I'm putting in, so I have airflow. But back here, I can't go all the way up. Obviously, the roof curves down to the side here, but the wall also curves in. Look, I'm touching the wall here, but I've got 3.5 inches behind my vertical here, and down at the bottom, I've got 3 3/4 inches. This could have gone under the window if it was inside the window, but that's not the case because I'm over one of these side support stanchions in the Sprinter frame. In other words, if I were able to bring this over here, okay, then I could get both of these verticals in the rear. I could push them back. I'd cut them and let them fit inside this window box. I could make up that 3 inches. The refrigerator is a big fridge, so that's an impossibility. And I need to have it up so I have room for my mechanicals underneath. If it were a different configuration, I'd be able to tuck in and grab that extra distance. But it's not, so I won't. Because of the refrigerator situation, the depth of the Sprinter, the height, blah, 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 it leaves us with a nice little cabinet up here, and it's quite large. It goes all the way back. The refrigerator ends under here. This is pretty much the end of the fridge, right? Now that leaves me room to run my wires. It leaves me room to run my wires and pipe, water pipe behind here. Everything coming down from the solar. I think I'm going to put my breaker panel right up here. I could put it in the back and still have a cabinet up front. You know, I can split this entire distance in half, which is about 22 inches from here to here. I'll put my breaker panel here and run all my lines off it, And then the front half of this will be a nice little cabinet with 2 double doors. Very cute. I'll see you next week. All right, now we're back in the bottom of the refrigerator in the pleasure way. Let me take you for another ride. If you remember, there's a hole cut in the bottom of this van floor. And what that's for, it's got a grate in it, a mesh grate to keep the critters out, but it certainly doesn't keep the bugs out. I can attest to that. Anyway, that was there because propane. You've got your absorption refrigerator, which was propane driven, fueled. Propane's heavier than air, so it will drop down in this fridge cabinet and drop out the bottom of the van. Very good idea, very safe. So I'm sealing up this hole because we're putting lithium batteries in here. I'm using PVC plastic sheeting, 1/2 inch, because this is going to be exposed to the road and the weather underneath. This will never rot. Don't be using plywood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dollop of silicone caulk. This is 100% permanent waterproof caulk, so that when I put in my nice tight piece of PVC, it makes a nice sealed bond to begin with. Then I'll come in on top and add some more. So I'm leaving the grate in. There's no reason to take it out. And now this baby fits right in here, like so. Oh, look at that fit. Look at that fit. I cut this on the table saw. It's plastic. This is one time you want plastic to last 500 years, right? Road grind. If you want to live right and you feel the fright, propane. If you got the blues because you got the news, propane. You live right, you live right, you live right without propane. All right, so I've got my joists glued down, and I'm going to put a sheet of plywood on top of that, and then my subfloor. And all the weight gets transferred down. Very nice. So I glued my joist down, and I put in my spacers to transfer the weight. Now here's my final subfloor. This has to go in this way because of that wire. I want access to that wire, like so. There we go. And the leading edge is what's important here. Okay, that's a good fit. I could glue that down and move on. Oh boy, look at this. I've got my flooring in, a nice clean piece of heavy mass vinyl. The batteries will sit on that real nice. And I've got my 80/20 bottom frames. This is going to hold the refrigerator sleds. And I'll have access panels underneath and the fridge on top. Pretty nice. A lot of space in here when you don't have such a big fridge. Then over here, all this is coming out. This transfer switch, my charger, I'll be having a new charger. So this is pretty much getting gutted except for the breaker panel that's down there. And there's a couple of resettable fuses in there. That stays. But this will be enough room for the new XC Pro inverter charger. So everything's going to fall in line here. So far, so good.